They were friends, tested and old friends, and childhood friends, who lived out their heedless ways through endless summers in the grassy fields of Jefferson County, while Daniel Lucas watched. Daniel, the smart one, was crippled as an infant from a disastrous fall from the arms of his nurse. So he would watch as his friends, the romantic and handsome Edwin Gray-Lee of Shepherdstown and the stubbornly devout and reserved John Yates Beall, as they roamed their vast estates around John's Walnut Grove, Edwin's home Leland in Shepherdstown, or even at Daniel's ancestral home at Ryan Hall. They laughed and reveled in what Daniel would later call the land where we were dreaming. John and Edwin fished with Daniel, and always they basked in Daniel's sparkling wit. John and Edwin, both dashing young prospects among the young ladies, rode together, and they jousted in the ring tournaments. "There stands he," wrote a Martinsburg friend of Edwin Gray-Lee, "who is no bad idea of the famous Knight of La Mancha. This gentleman is somewhat tall and of loose and dangling aspect, in keeping with the somewhat careless ease of his character." Edwin's own poems, which he read often as the king of the May Day festival at Morgan's Grove, according to a relative, brought sighs in the rising bosom of many young Shepherdstown ladies. He once wrote a droll poem about dull Latin verse he had to learn at boarding school at Alexandria. "Ah, could the bards of ancient time, ere their harps inspired strung, have seen the anguish which their rhyme from modern schoolboys' hearts has wrung." Then the hammer blows of misfortune tempered on the anvil of experience the character of these three boys, making them into new men. 16-year-old John Yates Beall, thrilled at being in England the chosen grandchild to accompany his wealthy grandfather John, who was of grand English lineage. Then, amidst the gaiety of the trip, to find himself suddenly at the bedside of his dying grandfather within the walls of a nunnery. Daniel observed, as John was his roommate at the University of Virginia, that John Yates Beall was wholly unambitious in college distinctions. But Daniel's sharp mind zipped through the law books, and he bantered, as always, gracefully and effortlessly through the interview with the lawyer that back then constituted a bar exam. Unlike the ever-buoyant Daniel, John Yates Beall had a moat-like reserve, reinforced by his huge inheritance. But even that huge inheritance could not relieve an unaccountable sadness that had settled on his face. John Yates Beall was forever changed by his father's death, and Daniel wrote, "The impression on John's mind by this event was permanent. He had become an earnest and serious young man, and a marked religious nature." A hammer blow of fate was also raised and came down upon the life of Edwin Gray-Lee. Daniel sat beside Edwin Gray-Lee as Edwin turned his carriage on a trip from Ryan Hall and back up the lane to his beloved home, Leland in Shepherdstown, only to find a smoky ruin buffeted by the winds of a windy spring day. Good God, Ned, where's your house? That's what Daniel said, and they both hurried to the rectory in town. Edwin hugged his mother convulsively when he met her there and said, "Mama, when I saw that house, I thought the fire had happened in the night and that all of you were lost to me forever." Then came the biggest test, the biggest hammer blow for all three men, the Civil War.